You're happy if you can get someone to the point of not working with you anymore.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone say that before. This guy's the real deal. He actually cares about helping his clients. And because of that, people will probably stick around longer. Vin, my brother, welcome to the It's Not That Deep podcast, my man.
We're here.
We're here. So everyone who doesn't know, Vin Infante is a master mindset coach, licensed psychotherapist, keynote speaker. You have over a decade of experience coaching clients in mental health, helping them perform better. You help high performers do what they do best, but even better. I really love your approach to things, and I'm very glad that we connected and learned about it. But you've had many lives, dude.
Yeah.
This current one that you're practicing,
Right.
is an accumulation of a lot of experiences. You're a firefighter at one point.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of very, very cool things. And I love your approach to taking. I'll let you explain it a lot better than I can. But between the therapy and the coaching thing, I'd love to start there, man. Like, tell me what makes you different than every other coach out there.
Well, that's the really cool thing, is that the 99% of coaches that you're going to encounter most likely are not already therapists. Probably have never been a firefighter either. I mean, maybe there have been some, but I don't know how many have. And what really makes me different is that I utilize a hybrid methodology. So when I first started as a therapist, I had this ideology of change the whole world. I'm going to crush it, and that's what you're going to do. It's not really how it goes, though. If people don't want to change, they don't. And you start realizing just how powerless you are in actually trying to help people change. Because the thing that I've learned is that therapists, we don't create change, but we facilitate a space for that change to occur. With that being said, after having over 10 years of experience in therapy, I got a little disenfranchised with it. That's when I stepped into coaching. And what I learned was that coaching's great for its own things too, but it also has its own problems. So what started making me unique is that I started blending the two worlds and then throwing in an aspect of mentoring. And now here we are doing something unique, different, and better, in my opinion.
And I totally agree. I mean, something that really stuck out to me from our first conversation is kind of how you explained, and I know this is a little reductive, but I think it's a really good way to explain it, is that therapy loves to focus on the past and kind of stay there. Coaching likes to focus on the future and kind of stay there.
Yeah.
You like to kind of blend the two, and it's like, you need to have an understanding of someone's past, but we're not going to stay there.
Yeah.
And then you need to know where someone's going, but we're not going to just stay there either.
Right.
Kind of bringing it to the present. Walk me through that a little bit more in practice. How does that work?
So I like to say, at least what I do is very dynamic. I don't come in and say like, okay, here's the cookie cutter. We do the 1, 2, 3, and like, that's how we do it. It's more like, we're going to see what you need. And then from there, we'll start taking action and going through it. And then as things come up, we make shifts as needed. So when I look at what the problems and the benefits of both services are, to your point, therapy does focus on the past and most importantly, the awareness. That's great for somebody who doesn't know why they keep messing up or why they're stuck, but it has very little value in the actionable steps of moving forward. And that's usually where the coaching's great. And then the coaching gets stuck in that whole, well, I don't know enough about your past to actually see why you're hitting these pitfalls that you keep hitting. And so that's where these services really do start falling short. And if you blend them, now you're getting rid of all those shortcomings and just enhancing the benefits. So when I do this, I will start with a piece of the past. Like, I'll want to understand your past.
Yeah, of course. You need that context.
You need to.
Yeah.
I believe that's fundamentally important, because there's so many people out here, especially coaches, trying to give you advice and action steps when they don't even know where you're coming from.
Exactly.
So I like that past piece. In fact, when I start with a new client, there's an onboarding homework assessment that I do with them. And I created this from my experience as a therapist, experience as a coach. And you go through your past, then you tell me about your present, and then we really look at what is your most desirable future.
Right.
And so even from doing that homework assignment, what I really do with people is I create a whole roadmap.
Got it.
From where they were to where they want to be and everything in between. And then from there, we just start hitting points as they come up or as we've noticed in the homework.
That's powerful, man. The roadmap thing. And I think for me, whenever I invest in some kind of coaching or some kind of enhancement to my performance, it's like, Yeah, I want to know what road we're driving on, man. Where are we going? Where are we headed? Like, how can you actually help me get to where I want to get to? But I love that understanding of the past. And having done therapy myself and having worked with a therapist, that is where it really fell short for me. It's like, dude, like I get it. Like childhood, my parents, all this stuff. Like, yeah, we have to go there, but can we like move on? Like, can we like talk about moving forward and like
Right.
what I could do right now, given that context and not staying in the past? And also, you know, something about the business model as well, just like the overall, you know, just the overall looking back at how therapists business model works. It's like they're not in the business of getting you better and getting rid of you as a client, and that's another thing that you mentioned that I really liked about your approach. Explain to me how that differs and how you approach business and helping a client.
I'll say part of it is probably the industry and part of it's probably me. But when I was younger and I started as a therapist, I noticed people were coming in day after day and just venting and they really weren't changing much. And I would talk to my supervisor and I'd be like, this person's been dealing with anxiety for 20 years or 10 years or whatever it is. And the thing that's kind of wildly accepted in therapy is like the process is come in for 10, 20, 30 years, talk about your problems every single session.
3 years.
We go all the way. You just keep coming until you die.
Business model, if I ever seen
It's the best. I mean, think about it. You have an unfixable problem,
Yeah.
and the only cure to it is not actually a cure, but the consistent maintenance of it,
Yep.
which you need to pay for.
Yep.
And if you ever stop, you probably get worse, right? And so I found like this is a really weird thing.
It almost becomes a crutch for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not to just completely shit on therapy. I know there's tremendous benefits to it for a lot of people.
100%.
But just staying there, it's like, dude, what next? Let's go. Let's move
Yeah.
forward. I
And
love that.
and there's another piece in there too that I think is important. Each service, either individually or even as the hybrid as I do it, has specific benefits for specific people. One of the things I disliked as a therapist was I found that a lot of these people, this is going to sound pretty crazy, but a lot of these people actually did not want to enhance their circumstance. They would come in, they would tell me they hate their job, they hate their boss, they don't make enough money. And then I challenged them. I'd say, so what are you going to do nights and weekends? Because you only work until 3 p.m. and then you have off Saturday and Sunday. They're like, well, I need my nights and weekends. I'm stressed from my job. And it's like, okay, sure. Or they talk about their childhood and they're like, you see, I can't get better. Why not? Well, because this happened to me when I was 12. I'm like, you're 55.
Of your
You start seeing that there's actually a lot of people that don't want to change. And for me personally, I get frustrated by that. I like the idea of change. I like seeing people want to enhance themselves. And that's why I started really getting into this mental performance coaching, because high performers want solutions. They want to take action. They want to change. And I think probably the average person maybe stays for so long because they're not ready for change. Right. And so that was one of the big differences I noticed about what feeds into this business model as well.
and for you, and this might go against your best interests short term from a business standpoint, but you know, you mentioned that you're happy if you can get someone to the point of not working with you anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. That's I've never heard anyone say that before. That I was like, this guy's the real deal. He actually cares about helping his clients. And because of that, people will probably stick around longer. They're like, no, I like this guy. He actually does help me make these little tweaks. And the quality and caliber of client that you're working with as well. These people actually want to enact change in
Yes.
their lives.
Yes.
Talk to me, what type of people do you typically work with? Give me some examples.
It's very much industry agnostic, but I would just classify them as high performers.
Uh-huh.
So I've worked with people that were directors at multi-billion-dollar private equity funds or firms. I've worked with people that are in startups. I've worked with people that are running companies of like 1 employee or 500 employees in all different industries. What it really comes down to, I would say, is a specific avatar, like a specific profile of an individual.
Right.
And that's always somebody that's in a position of power, somebody that has to perform at their highest level because they're leading others, they're leading a company, they have probably a massive amount of pressure, maybe they're struggling with some form of delegation or some deeper interpersonal issues. And that's usually the guy that I'm going to help most.
And so what do? You said you get them to fill out this questionnaire, you build out a roadmap. But then, like, what do the sessions typically look like? Let's say I'm a high performing, private equity guy, and I got 1,000 people I got to worry about. My delegation's all out of whack. And like you were just saying, like, I'm stressed. Personal life suffering now from it, all this sort of stuff. What do your sessions look like with me to help uncover that?
Yeah. I mean, so obviously we wouldn't unpack all of that in one session, but the typical session, so I have a few different ranges, right? Like for more cost efficiency, we could decrease frequency of sessions and decrease time in sessions. So I try to really keep it that it's budget friendly for people at different levels of different industries or wherever they're at in their journey. With that being said, now it comes down to, so what do we need? Like you listed 5 or 6 different issues there. Obviously, we're not going to hit all of them in one session or 1 month.
Yeah.
But what we start doing is we start looking at, especially for me, I know how most things impact other things.
Right.
And so if you're saying you're having anxiety, chances are X, Y, and Z is impacted by your anxiety. So would it make sense for us to treat the symptoms of anxiety, or would it make sense for us to treat the root disease? And I think that that's something that's really important that some people miss, is that sometimes they're spending more time focusing on the symptoms than the disease. Like that's almost the equivalent of going to a doctor saying that you have headaches and him just giving you Tylenol over and over. Meanwhile, you have a brain tumor.
Right.
Like you might stop the headaches, but they're going to keep coming back.
Yeah, you're just masking it and you're not dealing with the real thing, which is you got a brain tumor.
We got to go that deep.
Yeah. Sometimes it is that deep.
Sometimes it is that deep.
So, you know, then let's zoom out a little bit and make it a little bit more applicable to some of the listeners here.
Mm.
You often talk about helping unlock like an inner leader in
Yes.
someone. What are some of the mindset beliefs and things that people can almost right away flip a switch and take back control of their life and become that leader?
Yeah.
Which, you're a father. I know I own a business. A lot of people, we all have to be leaders in different ways in life. How can we practically start doing that a little bit better for people maybe struggling with that?
I think everything kind of comes down to clarity and then action. Like, I haven't really found one problem that couldn't be solved with that. It's a 2-step process. So I'll give you the whole freaking thing. I don't even care. Like, this is what I do with my clients. I'll give it to all of you. So essentially, I have people get clear. Like, you've probably heard of multiple personality disorder. But aside from it being a disorder, it's also a truth. We just all have multiple personalities.
But like parts. Yeah.
Correct. This version that you see, you, myself, this is the sum whole of all of our pieces combined.
Right.
So what does that look like is what's the first important step of clarity. So the first piece of the exercise is write down and identify every single identity you hold. Like the examples are, I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a friend, I'm a weightlifter. And I have a few more, but we'll just stop there, right? So you get all of those written down.
Mm-hmm.
The second piece is you look at what would those versions of you look like in the absolute highest form. So if you're saying, let's just use the father example. What would the highest version of the best form of the father look like? And you write out a few different attributes. You might say, he's a good listener, he's a leader, he's kind, he's compassionate, he's a protector, he's a provider. Now you have all of those. And the last piece of it is you basically take those and you break that down. So what does it mean for you to be a great father that's a great listener? How would you show up in that circumstance? And then it says, well, a father who's a great listener, and I'll use me, right? Now you make it very personal to you. I would say something along the lines of, I will listen to Sage. I will make sure that I reflect what she says. I'll utilize empathetic statements to connect with her. I could do reflective listening. I will put my phone away when she talks to me. Like, you just create a really powerful profile for each individual thing. And I'm not going to lie, it's a lengthy process.
Right.
But at the end of that, you have this freaking blueprint of the best versions of each version of you. And now it's just a matter of looking at, like, this is the best version. Where am I currently at? What actions must I take to get there? And how do I start doing that? And you do that for everyone. That's it. You are going to be that person.
Wow. Wow. That is powerful, man. I mean, and I got to see it on display on the way here with you calling your daughter. And, if you don't mind me sharing,
go for it.
She's freaking out crying. She misses daddy. She's sick. She's not, in the best frame this morning. But you call her and you stay patient. You listen to her, you acknowledge her feelings. You show up as the best version of Vin in that scenario. And I got to see that on display. And it's cool, man, because have you always like been that way, or do you think some of this work that you've helped with other clients has also helped you step into your highest self, so to speak?
Yeah, no, I definitely wasn't always this way. I mean, I was the kid that got bullied heavily. I struggled with depression, anxiety, panic disorder. I mean, there was a point in my life where so when I was like 18, 19, my best friend was 32. He was my boss at the gym, but he also became like my mentor, my friend and all that. And there would be days, literal days where I would complain to him and just be like, I hate people. I want nothing to do with anyone. They all suck. And it was a big embodiment of the victim mentality that I had because I couldn't figure out the inner work to get out of it. And that victim mentality is passing blame to everyone else. Like it's your fault that I'm miserable because you bullied me. Or, to the girl, it's your fault that I'm having a crappy day because you didn't answer my text and I like you. Right. And so you start giving away your power. And I really started figuring out, how do I empower myself and what does that look like? And I went on this personal development empowerment journey. And it really radically changed my life. And so I wasn't always this way. In fact, the really funny story is right now at this current day and age, and whenever people are viewing this podcast, but today I am 33 years old. I'll be 34 in July. But with that being said, I didn't start coming out of victimhood until I was 23.
Wow.
So I lived in victimhood most of my life. Like since I was in roughly kindergarten, I was getting, a little outcasted, ostracized, and bullied. And so now we're talking from kindergarten until 23. And now we're talking about empowerment from 23 to 33. I actually still to this day have been a victim longer than I've been somebody who's empowered and in control.
Wow. Wow. It's hard to picture you getting bullied and being a victim, like actually owning that identity.
Yeah.
But taking ownership of everything that happens in your life, good, bad, left, right, up, down, taking that ownership, I think, is a huge step. And I've had to go through that myself in many ways as well. There's just been so many transformations and moments in life where I've just had to look in the mirror and be like, everything is my fault all the time.
Yeah. Always is.
And the minute you can be at peace with that reality, I think that's when the change starts. And so not that I'm the expert here or anything, but that's just one thing I'd kind of add to that.
Yeah.
Is like just taking ownership.
Yeah. So everything in my view of life, how I frame it is everything's a process. Similarly to business, everything's a process. My view, and usually when I tell people of the transformation journey, it was that process. It was ownership, acceptance, accountability, responsibility, or as I like to call it, oar. Because you heard that term, up shit's creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need a paddle if you have an oar. And you don't have to be in this boat that's going nowhere with no control if you can steer it.
Yeah.
And if you're a victim and you're living in the state where like everything's happening to you instead of for you, what that is you're in the boat with no way to steer it.
Yep.
And you regain control the minute you have ownership, acceptance, accountability, and responsibility for your life.
I like that a lot. That's a great acronym. We're gonna clip that for sure. That's fire. I want to switch gears a little bit about the firefighting route.
Yeah, sure.
You were a firefighter during COVID?
Yes.
Talk to me, like, how does that just happen?
Like, effort, man. Everything happens when it's supposed to. When I was a kid, I always told people I want to be a psychotherapist and a firefighter. Psychotherapist because my dad was a therapist. Firefighter because every guy wants to grow up and be a hero, right? I haven't met one guy to this day and age that when you ask them what they want to be when they're a kid, it's like policeman, firefighter, military, NASA, whatever. It's just something extraordinary, right?
Yeah.
And so that was mine. I wanted to be a firefighter. And as I grew up,
I wanted to be a cop, man. So I wrote it in my journal when I was in grade 1, SWAT team specifically.
Okay.
I wanted to be the guy who busts the door.
We would have been brothers.
Yeah, cop. Not interrupt.
No, you're good, dude. I love it. So we, in New York, a lot of people don't actually know, but firefighting in New York is an interesting thing. You age out at a certain point.
Okay.
So you only have until 29. If you're past 29, you can't take the test.
Okay. Wow.
You can also only start taking the test when you're 18.
All right.
And if you miss that, The problem is you can only take the test once every 4 years because that's when they release it.
Oh, wow.
So realistically, from 18 to 29, everybody most likely could take the test twice in their life. And if you pass, you pass. If you don't, you don't. But the funny thing is, you can't just pass. You need to pass with excelling flying colors. Like,
Right.
you need to
Because
have.
everyone wants to be a firefighter, and there's not enough jobs for that.
Correct.
Right.
There's it's probably the most competitive test in New York City.
Oh,
There's over 80,000 applicants every 4 years, and they only take about 5,000 people every 4 years.
wow. Okay, that's insane.
So to be in the top percentile, you actually need to score over 100 on your exam. Like the first time I took it, I got a 93, and I was like number, I think, almost 10,000. So I never got fault.
So you had to wait 4 years?
Then you got to wait 4 years.
And you took that when you were 18?
No,
Or when
well,
you were 22 or what?
yeah, it was like, and that's the thing, right? Because it's every 4 years. It doesn't happen the minute you're 18, you can take the test. You have to see when do they offer this.
Oh, okay, okay. So it's on a set date. It's not about you can only take it every 4 years.
Right.
It happens every 4
Correct.
years, and you either miss the boat or okay, wow, that's today I learned. That's cool.
Yeah. So I got the second time I took it, I got 103, and I was number 1217, which put me into the second academy class.
What
And,
changed? What was it? What was that delta? What was that 10%?
I think this is going to go very spiritual. I think I wasn't supposed to pass the first time because my brother passed. So he became a firefighter before I did. And when I was still living in victimhood,
Yeah.
I was like, he stole my dream. Huh? But after I kind of figured out my stuff, I was like, there's plenty of firefighting for all of us. But here's the really cool thing of how everything works out. I was going through my master's at the time, and I hated it so much that I wanted to drop out. And I said to myself, if I become a firefighter, I'm going to drop out. I would have never finished and never become a licensed therapist, which means I would have never had my 10 years of experience as a therapist, which means that I would have lost like over a decade, right? Over a decade of what makes me today. So after that, by the time I was 28 and I took the test again, that's when I scored high enough.
Wow.
So I'm a big believer that that's a big part of what changed.
Everything happened when it was supposed to happen.
Correct.
That divine timing almost.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Are you very spiritual? Dude, would you say that?
Yeah. The big thing that I also like to talk to people about is like 5 pillars of life, which is spirituality, finance, your mindset, your emotions, and your physical state. So I think spirituality is a major key component in life, whether you have a specific religious belief or just a belief in God in general. I think it's extremely important to have that belief in something that's bigger than you.
Yeah. That's powerful, man. And Jamie, my business partner, and I have both really opened that door again this year. We've had a very challenging year. And, when we didn't kind of even know which direction to turn sometimes, or we don't even know if we're going to make a rent next month type of thing. We both individually in our own ways kind of turn to the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, a higher power. And it's crazy when you start to open your eyes up to the synchronicities and you start to live from a place of gratitude and realizing that we're all one and all this stuff. And so I do want to talk about that a little bit because in our first conversation as well, you mentioned that you actually include some of this stuff in your coaching, right? Like manifestation and visualization, that type of stuff. Talk me through that. Like, to some people, they might write it off completely as like woo woo, like law of attraction. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Man? Like, talk to me. I want to hear that.
Well, so that's always been hard for me to wrap my own mind around because I'm a very logical person. I like logic. I like things to make sense. I mean, that's why I enjoy business because business is all just like it's straight logic. You study data, you create a system and a process. It either works or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff that could back it up. And I think now more than ever, because people have been getting more interested in spiritual realms and metaphysics and all that quantum stuff, they've actually been looking into it more. So for instance, one big thing that people always talk about is your subconscious mind. There's actually a very scientific explanation, in my opinion, for visualization. So your subconscious mind is kind of dumb. It doesn't know the difference between reality or something you're just visualizing. With that being said, when you utilize visualization techniques and you invite an experience that you want to have in your future into your present, your subconscious mind doesn't actually know that this isn't happening. It just is thinking like, holy crap, like Vin's driving a Lamborghini, even though I'm just seeing it in my mind. And so now what does that start doing? Well, because it's having these experiences and you're intelligently creating it. And again, the subconscious can't tell that you're intelligently creating it. It's just like, oh, wow, we're in a Lamborghini. You carry that feeling. That feeling is going to come with a different energy. You're going to carry yourself differently. You start changing yourself as a person based on what you believe about your life, yourself, your circumstance, and that starts enhancing your interactions with life. This starts giving a return, right? Because we have that law of attraction, or energy reciprocates energy.
Yeah.
And so as you really get into all of this, you can start seeing there's actually more logic to it than it just being like spiritual woo-woo trust the universe stuff.
Right.
So that's why I could get behind, in my opinion, the art of manifestation. And one last piece I'll say, and I teach this to a lot of like entrepreneurs and business owners, especially guys that struggle with money. I'll always tell them, money, you shouldn't chase it, because money's very, very fast. It's paper. You're heavier than paper, right? So you're always going to be slower than it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that money's actually chasing something itself.
Okay.
So it's moving faster than you, but it's chasing something. And the question is, well, what does it chase? It chases value. So again, this manifestation, right? It's like, oh, if you want to make $1 million, manifest 1 million. But how do you do that? Well, you have to figure out how you, your service, your brand, your product becomes so valuable that people want it, that people rave about it, they love it, they keep looking into it, pouring into it, and all of a sudden you turn around, you've finally attracted $1 million to yourself.
Yep.
Because you've become the valuable thing that the money is attracted to and chasing.
Yeah.
And so again, that's what I believe is like the art of manifestation. You must become what you seek. Don't chase,
Become what you see.
become it.
Oof, that's powerful, man. And yeah, it comes down to those subconscious actual beliefs. And that's very, very powerful. We're running out of time a little bit here, Vin. I know we could sit here and cover a million things, but I do want to talk about your mission to impact 1 billion lives. Okay, this is very interesting to me. And you gave me a little caveat to that in our last meeting. You know, if it's not 1 billion, it's something else. I want to hear your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah. So part of what I really love talking to people about is their value systems. Values change often, and they should. And they will. And they're going to change based on your circumstance, what matters most, what doesn't matter, what you thought mattered but didn't after you got it or were closer to it. For me, being a father has been one of the most life-changing experiences I've ever had. So I would always go around and I would always say, I want to impact 1 billion lives. And then I got my daughter and I thought about what would it really take to impact 1 billion lives? And I know some speakers that are on the road like 260, 270 days a year. And then I thought, is any of that actually going to matter if I'm not here for this one? And so I started saying, I want to impact 1 billion lives, but as long as I impact just one, that's okay by me.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so powerful. I see you are an amazing father, Zed, and you got a beautiful little one, and I know that you're impacting, that girl's life and will continue to do so. Um, One last thing here. When you were talking about these like, subconscious beliefs and, the Lamborghini example, whatever, what is something Vin now is envisioning for the future and believing to be true, but might not yet be?
The biggest thing that I have struggled with my whole life was a big part of what I was bullied for. I was never morbidly obese, but I never had the body I wanted. I always had a little extra fat than I liked. And so for me, the big conscious invitation has been having the body that I've always imagined. And I'm a big fan of, you can't talk in the terminology of like, I will have this body one day, because it's still that awareness that you don't have it, which isn't really
You have to
programming you.
actually say that I have it now.
So you phrase it in a very specific way, yes. And the way that I do it, for instance, so I have it up on my mission board at home. And the way that I have the photo of this guy who's got a body type like me. So I'm like, okay, that's attainable because we're similar.
Yeah.
And then what I have is I says, my body, due to my dedication, hard work, and effort that I put in every single day to maintain this physique. Like that is a present tense. It's here. It's now. This is what I have. And that's just it. You always need to believe it before you become it. And in believing it, you always become it.
Oof. That's a bar, brother. I love that. Real quick, your mission board. What is that? Explain that.
It's like a vision board, but less stupid. So,
Okay. All right.
so right now we're in beautiful Miami. There's plenty of blonde girls here who probably have live, laugh, love with flowers on a board that said they manifested this life for themselves. No offense to any of you ladies, but to me, that's not something that's powerful. A vision is nice to have, but a mission is something you could really get behind. So I created my mission board, and what that is it's a form of a vision board with more dialed in actual tactical ways to really get yourself geared. So for instance, one of the biggest things that I think differentiates it is I make people put a personal mission, vision, and value statement, like who are you and what are you striving
Do you have
for?
your clients do this?
All the time. It's a free resource I have on my website. I give it to every client.
Awesome. We'll definitely link it for anyone listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm a big believer of it. And then you pair it with other things, visualization, journaling, looking at what's something you want to work towards on that board, create a plan towards it. Like you could get very granular because everything is system, process, and execution.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I use it.
Incredible, Vid. Look, man, this is going to be the first of many podcasts. I know we're going to do a lot more of these. We're going to, we're throwing an awesome event here today, and we're going to do a lot more of those. I really value your friendship. I'm so happy that we got to connect this year. I'm glad we got to do this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful for you, man. And like I said, I'm going to work with you 100%. Like, and anyone listening, how can they work with you or find out more about,
Yeah.
this?
So they could go, honestly, best way to find anything on me is go to my website. It's www.vincentinfante.life. I have a lot of free resources on there. I do a free newsletter. I do it twice a month. I have a free men's group for men who just need a place where they could, have brothers. I have a free personality test that they could take so they could understand a little bit more about themselves. I have the free mission board resource. And then all my socials are on there. You can follow me anywhere or just search me up. It's Vin Infante.
Incredible, brother. I appreciate you coming on the It's Not That Deep podcast. Again, I know there's a lot we can still cover, but we got some guests arriving now, so
That's it.
it's not that deep, man.
It seems like it could be that deep, though.
Sometimes, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.